Hello and welcome to Synchronicity Talk Radio for your mind, body, and soul. I'm your host, Marie Bernard, and we're joined today by author of Love Incorporated, The Business of Doing What You Love, Jennifer Noel Taylor. And you're watching this maybe on YouTube or listening on CITR 101.9 FM, where we broadcast from unceded Musqueam territory on the University of British Columbia campus. Or you might be listening online at citr.ca, cosmicdimensions.com, empowerradio.com, or on the Co-Creator Network. And wherever you're joining us from, I hope that you get a ton out of today's show. So Jennifer Noel Taylor is today's guest, and she graduated from Cal Poly in San Luis Obispo, California, with a Bachelor of Science degree in computer science and a minor in philosophy. And after graduation, she started her first job as a software engineer at a big company in San Diego. And like so many people, she felt incredibly trapped and depressed in a job that paid the bills but didn't speak to her passion in life. And she said she constantly suffered from a case of the Mondays and this weighty sense of foreboding at the beginning of each work week, which I'm sure a lot of viewers and listeners can relate to. And even though she was incredibly bored at her day job, she started pursuing her passion at night, which was massage school. And then she started doing energy healing, and she's created this amazing company, Quantum Touch. Did you create this company or you co-founded it?
The founder is Richard Gordon, and I do all the infrastructure and business side.
Wonderful. So you have a huge impact on this company, and it's grown to an international corporation with a community of over 50,000 people. And Jennifer Noel Taylor is the author of the book today. Maybe you can put it up to the screen, Love Incorporated. If you just say something so that the screen will go back to you. Maybe you can describe a little bit, while you're showing it, maybe you can describe a little bit about what inspired you to write the book.
Oh, sure. So this is the book, Love Incorporated. I made it really fun to read and easy to read. That was one of my goals, because I know we're all so busy that it's really hard to pick up a book and read it cover to cover. At least for me, I usually just flip through it. And I wrote the book because, partially inspired by the movie Office Space. I don't know if anyone's familiar with that.
I love that movie.
I could absolutely relate. I sat in a little cubicle for a lot of my work life when I first started working, and the office is air conditioned down to 68 degrees, freezing cold for me, and there's no light. It's all fluorescent lighting, and I just felt boxed in. And you get there at 8 in the morning, you're like, this is my home for the next 8 hours, and this is all I'm going to do is sit in front of this computer and type in this little freezing cold cubicle. And I just had a lot of compassion for people who are bored or not inspired by their job and are just trying to make money. And I have a lot of the scene in Office Space where the main character like pushes down the cubicle so he can actually see out the window. And he's sitting there playing Tetris and eating Cheetos, and his boss comes by and he's like, "Not now, I'm busy." I mean, I could totally relate to that, because that's how I felt at my job, just burnt out. And so I wrote this book in hopes that I can inspire other people to really pursue their calling, to pursue what's really on their heart, and leave a job that just doesn't really speak to their true passion. Because I feel like everyone has something in their heart that's their truth and their life calling, and when brought to the surface, it can not only bring joy to their life, it can bring joy to a lot of other people's lives. So I wrote that book to give a few techniques and tips on how to really connect with your heart, how to bring it into the real world, and how to create a joyful life doing so.
Awesome. Well, the book is made up of 4 main insights, and then you break those down. But how scared were you when you left? I mean, a software developer, software engineer. I mean, that's a pretty good paying job. To move into something completely different, how did you feel?
Well, I would say that I hit such a high level of depression and despair that I was willing to do anything. And hopefully other people don't reach that, but I was just ready to, it was too depressing. And then when I thought I have nothing to lose was my thought. I can go back to a depressing job for me at any time, but right now I have an opportunity to pursue my true calling. I have an opportunity to leave. I met my now business partner, Richard Gordon, and there was this window of opportunity to do something different. And for me, because I was in such despair about this job, I felt like I was finally leaving almost like a prison sentence, even though the future was very uncertain, because a software engineer job is really secure. And especially at big companies, pretty much can know that you're going to get a paycheck. But that's all I was doing, was getting a paycheck. So it actually felt really good because I was finally pursuing my calling, and I felt exhilarated and absolutely compelled. So the fear was not that present, actually. It was more of like my parents who had the fear, I think.
Pardon?
Initially. I think more of like my mom initially was afraid because I was leaving a good job for like an unknown future. But now my parents are really supportive.
Wonderful. I think a lot of, I know my boyfriend is a stand-up comedian, and one of his parents is not very supportive because it doesn't pay that well. But I know that he had kind of a similar situation where, you know, these nowhere jobs that are just, you're just putting in the time to get money, and then you're so burned out by the end of the day or the end of the week that you don't want to do anything with it anyway.
Precisely. The level of burnout where you're just not inspired is really, really hard because you spend so much time at your job. I mean, everyone spends, well, now it's like 60 hours a week at your job because now, you know, especially with cutbacks and recession and things like that, people are trying to be competitive and they work longer hours and there's no life left at the end of the day. So I like to make a joke. It's like not making a living, it's making a dying. You're like dying at your job. And for what? I mean, 40 years later, what do you really have? I mean, maybe you have some money saved for retirement, but I mean, it's depressing if you're just trying to look ahead for 40 years and think I need to do this for the next 40 years or so. So good for your boyfriend.
Yeah, good for him. I admire it. I'm trying to, but then there's the whole money thing. So I'm wondering, because a lot of people will try to do what they love, whether it's coaching or art, music, comedy, acting, and a lot of the time they have to have some other steady income. So it seems like you were quite blessed to find this opportunity when you did.
Yeah, the money thing. So this is the tricky part, and this is what I try to get to in the heart of my book, is that a lot of times when pursuing your true heart, your true passion, when you go off on your own and try to do something, a lot of the what I call the laws of traditional business or what we're used to no longer seem to work. And it can be very frustrating because you're out pursuing your passion and the money just isn't coming in. And what do you do? And I feel like this is why I wrote the book too, because you can't follow like traditional business anymore because it's a different reality. It's almost like a different paradigm of living. And it's not necessarily what we're used to. So I feel like what it takes is connecting with your heart always, and continually following your passion and your joy and taking inspired action. And I make a big point of that in my book because a lot of times you'll get, well, you want to be a comedian, you should do all this to promote, or you should do all this to make it happen. And you get a lot of advice that's, and if you listen to your heart, you're saying, well, that doesn't really resonate with me. What that person's saying doesn't really resonate. That's not really my truth. I feel like the universe guides you into the path to actually create money doing what you love, but it's really about listening to what it's actually saying. It may be completely off the wall. And I write about that a lot in my book because a lot of the guidance I was feeling was very different than the traditional business guidance that I was, sometimes receiving or reading about. And I was afraid to follow it because I'm like, well, that's crazy or that's insane. I really shouldn't do that. And I think what I started to experience more success when I was actually following my guidance, my own wisdom, rather than what other people were saying. And so I feel like the universe will guide you into that path of actually making money doing your passion if you are able to listen.
Well, I think that's the key. I mean, we all hear this follow your heart, and I think that that's one of the, yes, that is what the second insight in your book is follow your heart always. And I feel like there are a number of challenges with that. There's one is knowing the difference between your heart and your head and the peanut gallery. Uh, then there's trusting in that when you do trusting that you know the difference and trusting that your heart can guide you. And then there's the listening part, because we're so tuned into our gadgets these days that, I mean, even, I don't know, I try to meditate. I'm still working on it. How much do you meditate, and what does that look like for you?
My meditation is really simple because it's hard to turn off all of the gadgets and all of the noise. And so it's really important to spend a little bit of time each day without all that stuff, the cell phone, because it's hard to hear what your heart is really saying with the TV on and the cell phones on and, the worry about work or whatever you're, maybe concerned about. So I find that getting out in nature is super effective because unless you're really weird, you can't really bring your laptop out there, and don't bring your cell phone. Just, take a break from all of that. Even just 10 minutes a day, 15 minutes a day where you can get outside, even if it's just laying on your deck or, taking a walk or some kind of way to get away from that. And at that point, when you're out in nature, it helps facilitate the energy of tapping into your heart. Also, this voice, the heart, is super subtle. And so it's sometimes really hard to hear when there's a lot of clutter going on in your life or a lot of noise. So I like to do a daily work of, can I clear my space so that even while I'm working, I can hear the messages. And so me, that's really important, that I don't have a lot of just weird stuff laying around. And also, another way to meditate is just to breathe into the heart so that your focus is actually on your heart chakra and what your heart is saying. So with each inhale and exhale, so I do that meditation throughout the day, just inhale, exhale, connect, and you can start to feel what your heart is saying. And those are what I do, and I think everyone can create their own techniques, but just having the intent to hear the messages can also really help them come through. And so I use that a lot too, is just always help set the intent. I really want to hear what my heart's saying. And then I feel like the difference between the peanut gallery, as you said, and what your heart's saying, because when you follow your heart, there's this feeling of joy usually. When you're not following your heart or following the mind, there's usually a feeling of, like, I really don't want to do this, but I think I should. But when you're following your heart, you're like, oh, I feel a lot of joy around that. And that's how I know the difference for me personally is it exciting? Is there joy? Or am I just feel obligated? So that's a key difference.
And I'm curious, if you were experiencing depression, I imagine you are very in touch with what it feels like to worry and obsess about things. So I'm wondering, when you're following your heart, do you have any worries? Because I feel like I'm just always questioning whether this is the right step or not. And even if it feels joyful, like if it feels joyful, I'm more compelled to do it, obviously. And then sometimes I'll do it, and then afterwards I'll be like, oh no, was that the right thing? I don't know if that was the right thing.
I think it requires a little bit of surrender and trust. And sometimes, see, I still struggle with this sometimes because, my mind has been so active throughout my life doing computer science and stuff that I still have that little battle between my head and my heart. Because my heart's always saying, well, it's all good, it's all okay. And my head will look at something and worry. So it's knowing the difference and being aware, even if you're not what I would like perfect, or think that you have to be always perfect or always relaxed. uh, you can at least be aware of when something's coming from fear versus when something's coming from love, and that awareness can really help discern the difference. So I use that even if I go into my head, at least I'm aware that I'm doing that.
You,
And
oh, sorry, I interrupted you. Go ahead.
oh, that's okay. Sorry. Go ahead.
In your book, which is Love Incorporated, the business of doing what you love, there's an Oprah quote, and that actually reminds me, as we're talking about following your heart and this worry. Oprah, in an interview, said that if you don't know what to do, do nothing until you do. How true is that for you?
I feel like that's very true. And I've made the mistake of before of trying to do a lot, but accomplishing very little, or even, I'll give you an example. Hiring somebody to do something like a sales funnel, where you try to bring in customers through certain promotion and then guide them into the buying process. I never really resonated with it. It was something that I've been told to do by numerous people, but it was something I never really felt like, wow, this is something I really want to do. But yet, I thought, well, I should be doing something. So we hired different people to do that, to create sales funnels and do promotion. And I always felt angsty when dealing with this. And finally, one day I said, you know what? I've been banging my head against this wall for years. There's been no result. I've never felt inspired or any joy around it. I'm just going to stop spending money on it and stop putting my time into it. So I feel like sometimes, unless you feel inspired, the best answer is just to let it come, let the answer come, and not try to go out and do things.
Beautiful. So yeah, I was really excited to interview you because I love the idea, I love the concept of the business of doing what you love, because you're able to serve people in a way that's fulfilling for you and helps them. Because I feel like a lot of this modern day business world is just like, what kind of garbage can we convince people they need and make money from? So how is what you do different than that?
First of all, I, I believe that integrity is essential to doing what you love. And you know, if you believe in what you're doing, I believe in energy work. I've seen results. I've seen people experience healing from it. I really believe in it. It feels good to me. I love it when people are grateful for it in their life. And so it's like I feel like I'm helping people, and I have this genuine desire to help people. If you're trying to sell something that you don't really believe in, or trying to scam people, or trying to, if you know better as a business owner, if you know something's bad for people and you're still selling it, then I feel like you're out of integrity. And although you may make a lot of money, I feel like it's empty, because it's almost like stealing. I mean, okay, sure, if I go rob a bank, I can make money that way, but I I sold a bunch of money from people, so there's like a karma involved. It's not serving people to steal from people or to scam people. So I feel like there's just keeping your integrity is part of the service, and it's fulfilling for me. And I feel like for other people to do something of integrity in the world. And I feel like the universe rewards it. And over, and basically we're also, I feel like we're eternal. So this physical plane is temporarily, and so what you're really gaining is a spiritual wholeness, feeling good about yourself, ultimately feeling good about what you're offering to the world. Now, that's to me more important than making a lot of money at someone's expense.
Hmm.
So,
Well, that's one of the things in your insight number 4, be authentic. You talk about caring, letting go of caring what other people think. I think Wayne Dyer talked about being separate from the good opinion of others, not being influenced by that. And for myself, I don't do a lot of energy healing. I'm not a believer in that, and I'm not saying, like, that's just my opinion. But I know that you have had people say that you're not being authentic, you're a quack or whatever. And in the face of that, how was that for you? How did you get through that?
Initially I took stuff like that really personally because, of course, like it's insulting. And I realized, though, is that I really believe in what I'm doing. I really do. Even if other people don't believe in it, it's okay, because I feel like I can help people. I feel called from this, from my heart, to bring this to the world, to bring energy healing to the world. And I feel like it helps people. And as I got more in touch with why I believe in it and why I'm doing it, my ultimate goal is service. And just really owning that, owning your authentic self. And the more that I feel like you actually own that, that the naysayers just don't get to you anymore. And actually, I found that I attract less of them. The more I really say, wow, I really, really believe in this, it's really part of me, they're not really coming in as much anymore. So I feel like almost like it's just the secret is really owning that, owning your truth and believing in it.
I love that. The one great tip was that you would say something like, thank you for your feedback, and then just leave it at that. Because before, and this is what I'm going through right now in with my show and my YouTube channel and all of that, is I so deeply want to make a positive impact on the world. Excuse me. And yet there are a lot, I mean, everybody's got an opinion. And rather than follow my own heart and get still about it, I get caught up in the drama of defending myself or trying to change someone's mind. And really, I mean, maybe you could share your experience, is not effective.
I used to do that. I used to get caught up in these like lengthy email exchanges, getting defensive and saying, no, we don't charge too much, or whatever they were saying. And I realized, wow, I have tons of happy paying customers out there. And look where I just spent an hour of my time dealing with somebody who, first of all, they have their mind made up already. So even if I sit there and spend 3 hours with them, they're determined to take me down. They're determined to be a naysayer. They're set in their ways. So trying to convince someone who doesn't want to be convinced is like, it's impossible. So by spending an hour or hours of my time doing that, I've just ignored somebody who's genuinely wanting help or feedback or advice, or who's really open to what I'm doing. And I didn't spend that time with them who really want help. There was an invitation there with the happy customers. So I really had to, it's almost like a self-control thing, because people can get you all wrapped up in it. That's how I got. And the happy customers are just happy, and drama can sometimes be super exciting. So it's almost like a discipline, saying, all right, I'm not going to engage in drama. I'm not going to engage in people who just want to vent and complain, even though it's kind of an exciting bit of drama. That's what I had to learn, is to really refocus my attention on the happy people who really resonate. There's a lot of people out there that I'm sure like completely resonate with what you do, because you're such a beautiful energy that you have. And that's the people who to focus your energy on. And as you focus your energy on them, more of those type of people will come in. And that's the exciting part.
Well, what I find is, especially with a medium like YouTube, I like to get people commenting, and occasionally there are some wonderful viewers and listeners who will comment about how much an interview impacted them. But for the most part, when people are happy, they don't need to say anything. It's the people that want to fight that will post, and then that's where you get the most action. So I think I'm in this space where I'm kind of like, how do I balance getting numbers and comments and interactivity with just serving the people that want what we're putting out there? And I'm wondering if you've been faced with that, or how that's been for you.
Yeah. Initially, when I was, I used to engage in a lot of the negativity and the drama, and it just really, I just decided it just took my focus away so much from the positive things that I just decided to just stop engaging pretty much. And sometimes, if someone has a genuine concern, I'll respond. But for the most part, if you know someone's just venting and wanting to pick a fight, I just don't fight. I don't respond. I don't post anything. And if somebody's really hostile, I've actually deleted their comments, like let's say our message board or things like that, because I feel like I just don't want to be part of that. And it's helped tremendously to stop engaging for me. And the happy people that post, I do engage with them, and sometimes I get some really good dialogue going with them, and that's the fun part because it's just so positive, and it kind of almost like edges out all the negativity. So, for example, let's say you want to eat healthier. So I feel like the best way to eat healthier is to just start eating more healthy food, and it'll edge out all the junk food. Same with comments and negativity. If you just start filling it up with positive stuff and engage the positivity, that negative energy will start to edge out. That's what I've noticed, and
Cool.
less of it comes in, which is great.
It's, I mean, we all, I'm sure everyone who's listened to or watched this show knows, like, focus on what you want, focus on the positivity. But knowing that and practicing it are two completely different things.
It's
So, oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was just saying it's a discipline. It's like any discipline. It's easier not to work out. It's easier, well, at least for me, sometimes I prefer not to work out. It's easier. It's easier to eat junk food sometimes. Junk food can be more available than making your own good food. So it's almost like a discipline to say, I'm not going to focus on that, even though it's tempting. I just feel like it's almost like developing a practice or a workout schedule. It just takes some discipline, which was hard initially for me, but I've gotten better.
Awesome. And I imagine that you end up, I mean, with a little bit of discipline, you start to see that it takes a bit of effort up front, but the energy that you have on the back end is so much more than just engaging in the negative or sitting on your butt and not exercising.
Yeah, if you can have initially the discipline to ignore the negativity and focus on the positivity. So let's say you have 10 negative comments and one positive comment. You can focus on that positive comment and engage that positive person because they get the attention. And sometimes people will do the negative stuff, just want attention. So if you don't give them attention, they're going to go away. And if you focus on the positive stuff, that's where the energy starts to go, and it starts to create more momentum on the positive. So initially it requires discipline like anything, but over time it becomes more automatic, just like a workout program or anything. It starts to become just a habit. And that's when it gets fun, I think.
Awesome. Well, we are speaking right now with Jennifer Noel Taylor. She is the author of Love Incorporated, The Business of Doing What You Love. And that's what we're here for, right? To do more of what we love, less of what we don't like, and to feel better and better, and to grow as individuals and to help make this world a better place. Her website for the book is loveincorporatedthebook.com. And let's talk about the concept of service and how, I mean, how much better is the world around you and the people in your circle when you're happy and doing what you love?
Oh, that's such a great question. It's it's a beautiful thing. I feel like when your life is surrounded by positivity the majority of the time. And as I think as you get more into your love, the drama, the negativity, the stress starts to kind of naturally fall away so that you have a life that's about living your dream and your vision more so, and the negativity becomes a very small piece, if not entirely gone. And that's when it starts to become fun. I feel like your life starts to become an adventure because you don't have the negativity, and then people send you positive energy, which to me, I love the feeling of somebody writing you a letter and saying, your book changed my life. Your book gave me a different perspective. Doing the energy healing, I'm out of pain. My chronic health condition got better, and I don't have to go to the doctor anymore. When you get all this feedback, it's so beautiful. It's so much fun when you make a difference and people appreciate it, and then you appreciate other people, and it becomes this big circle of love and appreciation, like a lovin', like
Mhm.
a beautiful. So that's, to me, that's more gratifying than having $5 million in the bank. It's just the energy of it's so beautiful.
And Jennifer, I'm curious to know a little bit more about Quantum Touch, because you said it's an international corporation with a community of over 50,000 people. So can you tell us a little bit about the company and how it grew to that level?
Sure, yeah. When I met my business partner, my now business partner, when I met him, I got the intuition that it was my role to become involved with Quantum Touch, and I ended up running the company. And I just kept on following like what I felt like was the next step. And we had a U.S. based company, and then all of a sudden one day, we got our first book order from the UK. So after that, it started just to spread naturally. It just started to spread by word of mouth, and that was a beautiful thing. So now we're in all over the world. We're in the UK, we're in Japan, we're in China, we're in South Africa, we're in all these different countries around the world, and it started with just somebody ordering a book in the UK. And to me, that was amazing, just how things can spread. And I've loved running the company over the last 13 years, and it's really simple. The message is really simple, that love is the ultimate healer, so that by the application of love, we can help facilitate the healing process. That's the message of the company. So the whole message is about love. So I really feel like the love is where it's at. The universe is actually just love. And when you give something enough love, it becomes its true self. It becomes whole. So that's how I feel real healing works, is just applying love. And I know it's completely out there and esoteric for a lot of people, but it's, to me, it's where life is at, is what's, love.
Thank you. Well, I can imagine, and maybe these are the kind of comments and questions that you don't focus on. I can imagine that some people might say, well, if you're giving love, then it's wrong to charge for it or something like that. So how do you come to terms with that? Because in the real world, if you just live on love, then you're not going to be around for too long. Um, but I mean, you have to also be loving in what you do. So how do you balance that, the love with the paying the bills?
That's a great question. I get that so often. And how I feel that actually works is that, let's say you're a practitioner of energy healing or coaching or other practice, you're not necessarily paying, your clients aren't necessarily paying for the love. I feel like what they're paying for is your time and energy in building a practice. So as a coach, let's say you spend an hour and a half with a client, what the client is really paying for is your time and investment of your energy to provide your service as a coach. Or in the case of energy healing, the client is paying for your time to provide the space to do the energy work. And that's what I feel the payment is for. And I give it an example in my book. Let's say you're going to a health food store, there's the produce aisle, and the produce is actually free. I mean, it grows out in nature. If you have your own garden, you can pick all of it for free. You could have free produce anytime you want. So what are you really paying for? It's not the actual produce. It's the time it took for someone to pick it, to bring it to the store, to package it, so that you could just go to a store and buy it. And I feel like it's the same way with any kind of coaching or spiritual healing practice, is you're paying for the time.
I love that. Thank you. That really helps, because I know that a lot of people that offer any kind of joy, love-based service, even art, they're like, well, if you love doing this, you should just give it away for free. So thank you for for that clarification. And Jennifer, would you show us the cover of the book again? It's so pretty, and where people can get it.
Sure. So that's the cover. It's basically the juxtaposition of, I have some buildings in the background of it's love and money and how do we integrate it. And your last question was really good, because that's the heart of the matter, is how do we really integrate love and money in this real world. And to get the book, it's on Amazon. It's available as a Kindle edition, and it's also available as a this format, paperback, full color. So you go to Amazon.com and look for Love Incorporated. And also it's on my website. So if you go to loveincorporatedthebook.com and click on buy the book, it takes you right to the Amazon page. And yeah, that's how you can get the book.
Cool. Okay, well, we've talked about following your heart, which is insight number 2. We've talked about insight number 4, being authentic. Do you want to share insight number 1?
Insight number 1, yes, we are spiritual beings in a human body. That's actually the major premise of my book, is that we're actually not just matter, that the universe is a spiritual phenomenon. And I feel like a lot of what quantum physics has been saying to us over the years is saying that we actually create our reality. And I feel like that's the power piece that's so important, is that if you recognize yourself as a spiritual being, you have the power to create the reality around you. And that's the point I really wanted to get at. And this has been shown in quantum physics that, that the state of matter can vary depending on the observer. And that actually tripped a lot of scientists out to begin with. Even Einstein had a problem with that. He's like, God does not play dice with the universe, but it's actually what's been shown in physics. And a lot of the spiritual teachings work with that. Like Wayne Dyer and a lot of the spiritual healers work with the fact that we're spirit incarnate and that we're eternal and that we can create the reality. And I feel like once you really feel yourself as spirit, first, it provides a lot of comfort to know that we're eternal. And second of all, that's your powerful point, is you are spirit incarnate.
So Jennifer, how deep would you say your faith is? Because I can imagine, I know for myself that I have this intellectual knowing that I have some form of a spirit. And sometimes I feel it, but when I don't feel it, I get caught up in that worry and I lose faith in the eternal and the ability to really create my reality without a lot of wheel spinning and struggle.
I hear you on that one. And it's not something I feel like I've entirely mastered, but what I do is that I feel like when you feel your connection to your spirit, it's usually through your heart. That's where I feel it. And I feel like the heart has an interface between the spiritual reality and the physical reality. There's an interface between the two that interface, I feel like, is not well understood, but not necessarily, nobody can really prove that it exists, but I feel like there is a portal between spirit and matter. When people die, I feel like they just leave their body, and the part of them that is eternal carries on afterwards. And there's this portal of energy that happens through death. It also happens through birth. We become spirit incarnate in that process. Do I fully understand how that works? Nah, no, not at all. There's a mystery behind it. But when you can open your heart, when you feel your heart, and we all know what it's like to feel your heart, you feel your emotions, you're connecting to that part of you that's eternal. And I feel like that's where your faith comes from. That's where you can really feel the part of you that's eternal. And when you feel that, that gives you that trust and surrender and faith and confidence that we're all looking for. Now, it's easy to turn that off, to shut down the heart chakra. There's so much right now in our society that urges us to shut that down and just be more robotic. And when you shut that down, it's much harder to feel that part of you that's eternal. But that's where the joy comes from, is when you can open the heart. Unfortunately, the downside of opening the heart is it also tends to increase your emotional sensitivity. And that's really, really hard for a lot of people. There's so much in our society that we want to numb that piece out, because any kind of pain in your life may come to the surface. And I struggle with that too. When I open my heart, all of a sudden anything that's not aligned comes up in my pain body. I can feel it. So it's knowing that it's a double-edged sword. Working through all your feelings and all your emotions is part of opening your heart, but there's like joy on the other side. So that's the payoff. I feel like feeling that joy and that connection.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah, I'm a pretty emotionally sensitive person to begin with. And then I think when I shut down, then that translates into not feeling better, but just feeling worry and anxiety instead of feeling hope or pain or emotional stuff.
Yeah, emotions are rough. They're intense. They can be really intense. If you're dealing with anything, you can, it's like we sometimes want to numb that out so we don't have to feel, and we just go through our life. And I think there's a lot of numbing devices out there, like alcohol is a big one, TV, too much chocolate or whatever it is. There's tons of numbing stuff out there. Even medication, I'm not a doctor, but I feel like a lot of what it's called the antidepressants just narrow your emotional focus to about here, so that you turn off the joys, but you also turn off the sorrows. And to fully feel your emotions is where the juice is at, though. And if you look at the people who really are following their heart, they tend to be wildly emotional. And I feel like that's because they've opened their heart and they're willing to ride the roller coaster of emotion, which is part of it, an important part of it.
Thank you. And the insight number 3, I think this is a really important one too. Challenges are an opportunity for growth, because I think a lot of us, we view success as a smooth, linear road. And I know for myself, being a sensitive, emotionally sensitive person and having to really work on regulating my emotions and how I cope with them. I spent a lot of years avoiding struggle and avoiding challenge. And really the good stuff is on the other side of that usually.
Yeah, I fully agree. It's going through the dark to get to the light. And if you've ever experienced a major trauma or anything, I mean, we all have. We've all experienced a major trauma in life, if not many. And there's a darkness that comes with that. You need to process through all of the negativity. And then what you find is that you go to the next level of joy. So being okay with experiencing the broad range of emotion can really help you go into the next state. of a more amazing life. And it can be annoying for people to think challenges are an opportunity for growth, because most people just, including me, just want them to go away. Just want to not deal with the challenges, just want to, some other way to get out of it. But what I find is that the universe is trying to get you to open your heart even wider, and the challenges can really help open your heart. And then when your range increases, your level of joy also increases on the other side. So the universe is just assisting you to go the next level of evolution through the challenge, usually.
That just brought something up for me, because a lot of times, like, I'm a procrastinator, or I'm working on being less of a procrastinator, but I noticed that there are certain benchmarks and things that need to be done, that the longer we avoid them, whether it's washing the dishes, doing our taxes, having a conversation with someone that needs to be had, the longer we avoid doing them, the more it drains our energy. And it's still there. It's still there waiting. Sometimes it's piling on more as we're waiting or as we're procrastinating. So, and then once we do it, it's rarely as challenging as we anticipated it to be. How do you find that for yourself?
That's a really good point. I fully agree, because I feel like the universe will bring you a challenge. At first, it's minor. And then if you ignore what the universe is trying to tell you, it grows, it becomes bigger, it becomes more of a problem until you're forced to deal with it. And I'll give you an example. I knew that I was supposed to live in Hawaii. The universe has always been urging me here, but I was trying to make Los Angeles work. And the final straw was I rented a place in Los Angeles that had rats, had a gas leaks. The the heat, sewage was coming up through the toilets. The heater broke in the middle of winter. Uh, you name it. This place was just ridiculous. And I had been through a bunch of other traumas in LA and had a whole bunch of issues, but I was stubborn. I'm like, I'm gonna make LA work, until I rented that house. And I sat back and said, you know what? I give up, universe. I guess LA is just not the place for me. It's time to go, because I can't live in a place with rats, and this isn't working. It took that much for me to get out and actually get into where I was supposed to be. So sometimes a little minor thing can really escalate if you're not really dealing with it. And I'm actually much happier in Hawaii, but I was stubborn. I can be stubborn sometimes, and the universe will find a way to get to you. That's what I feel happens.
Well, and I can see how it'd be easy to kind of justify staying there, because LA is an amazing place. It's beautiful. The weather is generally great. It's a bustling area with lots of opportunities. So, I mean, I kind of feel that way about Vancouver. It's such a, like, the views are stunning. Other than the rain all the time, I love the weather. And yet there are things that are kind of pushing me maybe to move somewhere else. But it's one of those places where you should be happy, or you can tell yourself that you should be happy, so therefore you should make it work.
Oh, yes. Yeah. I can identify with that. Telling yourself that I should be happy at this amazing job that pays me so well, that everyone thinks is the right thing, or I should be happy living in LA because it seems to make the most sense, especially if you're running a company, or I should be happy with whatever. And I feel like those shoulds is the way for the mind to justify something that's not the right thing. Because if your heart's saying one thing and your mind's saying should, but your heart actually knows the truth, that's actually where the juice is. And to get onto that train, the universe is wanting you to get somewhere, and it puts that feeling in your heart of, the truth, and now it's just a matter of following it, even if it's really weird or completely at odds with what people think you should do or the logical thing. I've struggled with this many times, because a lot of what my heart says has no basis in logic. And I love logic.
Yeah. I totally, yeah. I feel like I want to get relationship advice from from you, or just about following, like I need to follow my heart. I feel like at odds in the relationship that I'm in, where when I am, it seems like when I'm following my heart, everything feels like it's on the right path. And then I get caught up in the, okay, how are we going to make this work? How are we going to make the bills work, as real estate prices are like doubling every few months here in this city? It's ridiculous. And so all of these other things in the logic part of me start to question, and then I think, oh, maybe this isn't right for me. And yet, yeah, I feel like that discipline of getting into your heart space and starting to trust your heart is really where things become clear, because all the logic, I mean, logic is a great tool, but it's not the guidance system, right?
Yeah, logic is a great way to maybe use discernment sometimes, but I feel like your guidance system is definitely in your heart. So with relationships, I guess what I focus on is, how does it feel? Does it feel right? And I feel like if your partner, just when you hug him, he feels right, that's your heart talking. And the mind will say, oh, maybe there's an age difference, or he's not doing the normal career path, or all of this stuff. But the opposite too. If somebody looks great on paper and your logical mind's really happy, but you're with them and it doesn't feel right, it doesn't work. So again, that guidance system is speaking loud and clear. And I feel like a lot of times it's set up that way to challenge our preconceived notions of what's right or wrong, because this reality is very fluid, and we have a lot of beliefs that may or may not serve us. And if we can, the universe is a lot of times inviting us to let limiting beliefs go and embrace the adventure, which can be hard because it's usually not logical.
Yeah. Well, there's payoffs. It can be scary, but it can also be so worthwhile. I mean, it's really a choice, I guess, whether you want to stick with the way it's always been done, or you want to experience something greater with the risk.
I think Jim Carrey said once that you can fail at what you don't want, so you might as well try doing what you love. And so even that secure job can go away. Even that boyfriend that looks good on paper can leave. Your house can be flooded by some natural disaster. I mean, even what you feel like is secure could be taken away. So in essence, your only security really is what's in your heart. And as you follow that, I feel like your life becomes lighter and lighter and brighter and brighter. And that's where the juice is at. So I think security is almost a myth, although your logical mind will say you'll need to do this to be secure. I think there's a myth in that.
Oh, we could talk about this all day. We're running out of time for the show, though. Have been speaking with Jennifer Noel Taylor. She's the author of Love Incorporated, The Business of Doing What You Love. And you can find more information about the book at loveincorporatedthebook.com. You can get it online where books are sold, as well as retailers. Are there any brick and mortar stores that you want to direct people to?
No brick and mortar. It's online or print on demand on Amazon.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So,
all right. Well, is there anything else? What do you think is the most important thing that you want listeners and viewers to take home today?
the biggest takeaway that I would just love for everyone in the world to take away is to really, it's all about love. And by connecting with your love, that's where the energy's at. And following your love is just so important, because love is the most important thing. So, love. That's my message, love.
Thank you. I got to say, I was getting like emails and stuff that stressed me out before the show, and I was like, okay, I got to focus on this interview. And after speaking with you, and after speaking with so many synchronicity guests, I almost always feel better, lifted, more optimistic about life. So it really does make a huge difference.
Oh, yeah. And thank you for your work. You have such a beautiful energy, and I love what you're doing. I just feel it. So thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer. All right, well, it's time to say goodbye. Again, we've been speaking with Jennifer Noel Taylor. The book is Love Incorporated, The Business of Doing What You Love. And the website is loveincorporatedthebook.com. Thank you so much for joining us today. And if you are listening online or watching online and you found this episode helpful or inspiring in any way, I do encourage you to subscribe or to share this with someone who might benefit from it. And I want to send you lots and lots of love. Be well. Love you so much. Namaste.
Namaste.